Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show.
All right, magic makers, brace yourself, because today this stat is going to make some of you feel a little called out. Nearly 70% of women admit that they struggle with saying no. Yeah, even if it's wrecking their own health. And if that just left you with a little thought of like, ouch, that's me, pull up a chair, sister, because this episode is for you. I am joined by therapist and author Diane Lang, and we are diving headfirst into good girl syndrome. It is that exhausting cycle of overgiving, people-pleasing, and being that go-to person for everyone in your life but you. We're talking boundaries, the kinds that actually stick, why saying no feels so freaking hard, and how to stop measuring your worth by how much you do for others. If you've ever ended your day completely drained and still asking yourself, did I do enough or I didn't do enough? This conversation might be the shoulder shake you need to hear. So let's rip off that good girl badge once and for all and start rewriting our rules. So let's get into it.
This week's iTunes review is brought to you by Jackie O. Jazz Hands. She writes a great, funny podcast about real topics we all struggle with. Kim gives great advice and support to people to live their best life. That just fills my heart. Thank you so much for taking the time to write me that 5-star review. And for those of you who have yet to leave that 5-star review, all you have to do is go on to iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast and do the same thing, and I will read it on the air. So thank you so much, Jackie O. Jazz Hands. It fills me up when I read those reviews from the heart. Enjoy the podcast.
Okay, magic makers, I'm going to throw you with this statistic, and it blew my mind, and I know it's going to blow your mind. Did you know that nearly 70% of women admit that they struggle with saying no? And if you're like, oh, how'd you know? Because, yeah, you're probably one of those women. Even when it comes to the expense of our own health, I see you all the time. I hear you. I talk to you. I get it. That stat hits really hard because so many of us are walking around burnt out, worn out, and still asking, did I do enough? So today's episode is all for these women who feel like they are checking all the boxes for everybody else, but can't remember the last time you checked a box for yourself. I invited Diane Lang on to the show. We're talking all about that good girl syndrome. She is a therapist, and this conversation might be your wake-up call. Diane, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And I love this statistic because it lets you know how many people really deal with this.
You know, so I was listening to, I think it was Jay Shetty, and Michelle Obama was on his show, and she was talking about, now that she's not first lady, now that she's not in the White House, how she's like unapologetic she is about her time. And she said, when you're in the White House, she's like, there's a litany of things that if you didn't show up to, it would be a media scandal. And she's like, I was that good girl. Like, I was a lawyer. Like, you had to show up for this and you had to show up for that. And then she's like, now that we're, 10 years removed from her being in the White House, she said, now I just look at my time. And she's like, I now ask myself, do I need to be there? And how many women, come to that realization?
Not many. Not many.
Hey, magic makers, real talk. Have you ever stood in front of your closet, jeans in one hand, stretchy Lulus in the other, debating which one is going to make you feel less like a can of Busta Biscuits? Yeah, my hand is raised high. Honey, it's not about being lazy. You are not crazy. No, your metabolism just didn't get up and move to another country. The truth is you are doing everything right. Yeah, according to every diet book, trainer, fitfluencer on the internet, and yet your belly fat is still hanging around and thinks it's going to live there forever. But here's what I want you to think about. If this eat less, move more actually worked, we wouldn't be in this situation. We wouldn't be having this conversation. And I believed all this stuff, hook, line, and sinker, and I'm a trainer. So I created something different, something that was short and made for women just over 40 who are sick of starting over. I call it the 5-day belly fat reset. It is a private podcast that cuts through the noise. No calorie math, no endless cardio, just real talk and some science-backed strategies to really help you understand your body right now. I break down why working harder is keeping you stuck. And I see it all the time. Why belly fat is around and what it really is trying to tell you, and how to stop playing health roulette every time you take one little stumble. Don't worry, it's not going to take a lot of time. It is bingeable. It is under 10 minutes. You can do it every day, or you can sit and binge it in one session. We talk all about fat loss and how to get it done. Want to grab a copy of it? Do me a favor. Head over to the link in my bio and click the link and you'll get immediate access. Or if you are on socials, DM me the word reset and I will make sure you get a copy of the podcast. And this is what I know. You don't need another plan. You need a better approach. So let's get this done, Magic Makers. Enjoy the show.
I just had a conversation with a client this morning who literally, we were just talking about taking 1 to 2 hours a week for herself.
Oh, yeah.
And she had every reason why she shouldn't, every excuse why she shouldn't, not just the guilt or she never saw her mom do it, but, I just, nothing will run without me, everything will fall apart. And I said, you realize you're falling apart already. So if you're falling apart and you're the glue, what's going to happen when all of a sudden you're gone? I said, and you melt down and burn out, everything's going to stop. And it was such a aha moment for her because we don't think like that. No. We don't think about our own time as, this will help me refuel or reboot and be the best person, whether that's a parent, a friend, a brother, a sister, whoever you are. Because, we're talking with women, but men, not as often, but men can still have the issue of people pleasing and having a hard time saying no. It's, we usually talk about it for females, but I do want to put that out there. I've had men have the same issue as well. So it can go across to everybody.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, I had a very similar client as well. And, she comes in with all the vim and vigor as they do. I want to make the change. And I was like, okay, we're 3 weeks in and all the, 1 to 2 things that you told me you were going to do, we still haven't been able to get into the groove. And I said, let's scale it way back. And I said, can you give me 5 minutes? And I want you just to sit in quiet. Sit in quiet, 5 minutes. You would have thought I asked her to run all the marathons on every continent. And I was like, pet your dogs. One of her biggest things was she was always rushing home for her dogs. I'm like, okay, so clearly you like them. So sit and pet your dog for 5 minutes. And you again thought I was asking for the world. And it's 5 minutes. And it's really, it's funny because I'm a recovering stress ball. So I'm not throwing shade.
I'm a recovering people pleaser. I fully admit it. So I'm with you on that one.
I know what it's like to be everyone, doing all the things, checking all the boxes, and then collapsing at the end of the day and still asking the question, there was 3 things left on my to-do list.
Yeah. It's really, you think we're asking them to solve world peace by, just asking them to take 5 minutes for themselves. But it's such a new concept and all that uncertainty and that anticipatory anxiety of not only what is it going to look like for them, but how is it going to rock the boat for everybody in the world? Right. That they, whether it's professionally, personally, makes them even more scared. And again, it's such a hard concept to realize that you can't give what you don't have. So if you want to be the best parent or the best worker or the best teacher, whatever it is that you're doing, you need to take care of yourself first. And I know it just feels awkward and such discomfort comes up for people that they rather avoid it. But you're right. They can know you're right. They can tell you, I know what you're saying is right. I know I need to do it. But to actually get themselves to do it is just so hard. Or if they do it once or twice and they feel that guilt and they feel awkward, then they kind of rush back. And we know it takes a few months of practice for something to become an autopilot lifestyle habit, where you can just remove that willpower and discipline and be like, all right, I got this, the way we brush our teeth, make our coffee. You don't think about it, just do it. And that's where we want people to get to, that just self-care in general, which really daily preventative self-care is just your basic needs. Thinking about it, it's like typically, thinking, I always say, look at Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, not to go back to intro to psych, but somebody who teaches college, we use that all the time. To reach your full potential, you have to get through your basic needs. And your basic needs are true self-care, right? Sleep, diet, exercise, and water. And if you don't even have those things, you can't climb up that pyramid to get to your full potential. And those are things that every human should be doing, should be taking care of themselves. That is true self-care. And that's what we're trying to get across here. It's not like, if you want to get a mani-pedi, you want to play golf, get a massage, have fun, but are your basic needs met? And that's a great place to start.
Right. And as you're saying this, one of the themes that I see pop up, and you probably could see this as well, is that it becomes almost like an addiction, right? That like I tie my self-worth to being the one that, only Diane could get that done, or, go see Diane, she knows it, or, or go see mom, or, so you kind of become addicted that's my identity. I'm the go-to person. I can, put on my cape and, leap tall buildings in a single bound. So it's like, why do so many high achieving women, given all the other accolades that they might have, like being needed for even the most, like, where the staples are in the supply closet is like, that's a title I have.
I think for a lot of us, one, it's learned, right? Most of us learned that, especially for women, that we watched our moms, our grandmothers, our aunts, even our older siblings, if you're the youngest, take care of everything. And we're raised as women. This is starting to change, but I'm going back, showing my age. If you're, 70s, 80s, 90s, even 2000s, you were raised with, you're the nurturer. You're the caretaker. You make sure everybody is okay before you check on yourself. So we're raised thinking that way. So when we step outside of that, being that we've never seen it and we've never done it yet, and you could be in your 30s, 40s, 50s or older and starting to do this for the first time, you're like, whoa, this just doesn't feel right. And for a lot of people, they say, I feel selfish, even though selfish and self-care are completely two opposite words. But a lot of women would be like, I feel like I'm being selfish. Am I being self-absorbed? Am I not being a good mom? Am I not being a good friend, a good sister? Whatever their roles are, instead of, again, taking some time to really think about why you're doing this. But it's so learned. And our belief systems, we get them when we're young, right? From birth to like puberty, right? We absorb everything like sponges. So what we had downloaded from childhood stays with us. And if we didn't challenge it or realize that it was even affecting us, and for a lot of people, it's just their downloaded program, their autopilot, they don't even realize that's what's burning them out or causing, as you said, to become a stress ball or a people pleaser or have that good girl syndrome. They don't even realize that it's what's stressing them out, what's making them anxious, giving them relationships that are unhealthy and unbalanced. So sometimes it's just finding the self-awareness of going, okay, I've been stressed out consistently. I'm noticing that I don't have the healthiest relationships, whether it's my whole group of people or just a few that are always really, pushing my buttons and taking advantage of me, and realizing why. It's because we're letting them. We don't have boundaries. We didn't set boundaries. We're not even aware what boundaries are. I mean, I've had clients in their 40s and 50s, even 60s go, I'm not even sure what a boundary is. Like, what is it? Why am I supposed to have them? So if you weren't taught it, if you didn't see it, and you were taught the exact opposite, and that's the way society has kept it. Again, we're slowly changing. And I know I'm trying to make that shift with my daughter to make sure she does have self-care and makes herself a priority, and that is not a bad thing. But that's kind of a newer generation thing. We didn't do that for years. So it's strange to most people. That's really what's happening. It's outside their comfort zone.
You're right, because I have a client that I see this in her. She is she comes from a family of immigrants, and the women were the cooks, right? The women cooked dinner. The women made sure that, like, everyone sat around the table. And recently, her husband has been laid off, and now she's the primary breadwinner. Yet she still feels like I have to be the person to cook the family meal. And, when you ask the question, you're like, hey, what if you positioned to your, her teenage children and her husband, mom's working now. What if you guys were to be in charge of dinner? And I was like, can you raise that? And she was like, shh. Again, one of those, like, what are you doing? Right. Like, what are you doing? And she's like, they would just order pizza. And I was like, but if you kind of set parameters, like, hey, like, mom doesn't want pizza every night. Could you order me a salad? Could you order Chinese? Like, could you give them some inklings of what to do so that you're not always feeling like you're racing home from work and before you even take off your clothes, you got to cook dinner. And, again, it was one of those like, what are you doing? Like, why are you trying to rock the boat, Kim?
Well, because when we take care of everything, we're also in control.
Yes.
As that is part of the addiction, as you were talking about, right? We become addicted to perfection, making sure everything's done perfectly for us and being in control. So when we let go of that control, we all of a sudden don't feel as needed.
Yeah.
And we do. You do wrap your self-worth because you're like, okay, I know that I can help people. I know that they think of me. I know I can solve problems, even though it's not our job or responsibility to solve anybody's problems who's an adult. I'm not talking about little kids, but as an adult,
right.
It's not our job or responsibility, but we take it all on because it makes us feel needed and wanted and liked. And that's the hard part because that's how we form our identity. And then it becomes very tough to kind of get out of that and still feel needed and wanted. And that's the challenge. But again, I think it goes back to first being aware that you're even doing it or why you're feeling so stressed or, like you said in the beginning, to the detriment of your own mental health. You're resentful, you're angry, you're bitter because the same people keep taking advantage of you, but you keep doing it. So it's that self-awareness before you even
you keep happily putting yourself into that same boat.
Yeah, I know. I did it for years. I have to say I'm a late bloomer and I'm in the field. I've been teaching college for 25 years, been a coach, I've been a counselor, but yet I'm doing it, which was even worse because I'd be like, I know better, like yelling at myself. But then you get in that vicious cycle of, okay, I'm acknowledging and identifying, but now I'm just judging myself and beating myself up, which just keeps you in the negative cycle. So it's really important, even if you're in the field, whether you're a therapist, a life coach, a counselor, a social worker, an educator, whatever you're in, sometimes we're the people who do it the most. And we don't become self-aware because, again, we're taking care of everybody else. If you're a caregiver, not just as a mom, we're taking care of parents, like that sandwich generation, but in your role as a job. What do you do for a living? A lot of us are caretakers that way as well. And then we just get so wrapped up in it, and it's a habit that, again, we're not even aware of it. And it just goes and goes and goes until we start burning out. And we literally do burn out.
Oh, for sure. Or you'll tell you, we all can justify the crap out of anything in our lives. So you're like, oh, I'm just going to do this one time. Or next week it's going to be different. And you do, and then it's like, here we are, 2030, and you're still in that same cycle.
Yeah, and that's scary. And I always ask my clients to look 1 year ahead. So I'm like, all right, let's say it's what's today? May 9th, 2026. If you're still in the same situation, doing the same thing, what will you feel like? Can you imagine doing this for another year? That sometimes wakes people up because they're like, oh my God, I don't think I could do another year. Like, I think I will literally burn out or I'll be so miserable and depressed. And then they start thinking differently. So sometimes you're right. You got to look in the future of, hey, can I do this for another year? And if I do, what are the consequences?
Right. Yeah.
So it's hard.
It is hard. And, you use a word that I think we use it in the world, but I want to put a definition to it. So you talked about good girl syndrome, and I want to put a definition to that because I think all of us hear it, and I might interpret it differently than you and the person who's listening, but I would love to hear what your interpretation of good girl is.
It's really, to me, and, again, everybody can have their own definition. It's the same thing as being a people pleaser. And really, the good girl syndrome it's because we're seeing it more in women than we do in men. But again, it's being raised to be that good girl, to be quiet, Spoken, don't speak unless you're spoken to. Make sure you're overly accommodating to everybody else. Make sure everybody else is a priority. Put them first. Make sure everybody's happy. Then you can go on your way. Be that nurturer, be that caregiver. And that is what that good girl is. And then we're always looking for acceptance and approval from others. We don't have boundaries. We don't know how to say no. We don't even know how to ask for help or delegate because of guilt. And boundaries, again, it's something that I even, for me, I didn't hear about boundaries until I was in like grad school. I remember being in graduate school for counseling and being like, oh, this is a real thing. I mean, again, I'm showing my age. This was, late 90s, early 2000s. So boundaries was not talked about. We didn't call anybody toxic or narcissist.
No.
It was like, just get over it. It was a Gen X generation. You got a problem, just let it go. Move on.
Rub some dirt on it and move on.
Yes, just be home by dark. We don't care what you do. Very different generation. But I was like, oh, really? Boundaries? What is that?
Yeah.
It was such a new thing for me. And, a lot of us who go into the field, whatever, again, social work, counseling, coaching, whatever it is, a lot of us come from really dysfunctional backgrounds, which is why we picked the field, because we want to heal ourselves as well as I know I never want anybody to feel what I felt as a people pleaser or as a good girl. It was horrible. And it comes from my dysfunctional childhood. And I don't want anybody to feel that pain, which is why we go into this field. So a lot of times it's an aha moment for us to go through school and training and realize, holy shit, excuse my language, but I am doing that. But then you have the empathy to help other people because you really understand it. I mean, we could all empathize and you learn it academically, but when you go through it, you're like, oh, no, I get that. I've done that. I still sometimes catch myself and go, whoa. I had to change an appointment and I wrote, I'm sorry. And then I texted back. I erased it and I was like, no, thank you for switching your appointment. And why do I have to say I'm sorry? But that's such an old fashioned habit.
Oh,
to go,
yeah.
I'm sorry when it's not even needed. You did nothing wrong, but that's part of good girl and people pleasing.
Yeah. It's interesting to see that you say that because I feel like, most of the women who listen to this show were 40 plus, right? So we grew up in that generation where all of us can look back and we'd be like, oh, we had a very dysfunctional childhood. Now, not to say that it was horrible, just some of the things that we went through, kids today would be like, horrified. And you were just kind of like, that was just we're like, that was normal. That wasn't weird that would happen. So I think for many of us, right, where like you said, boundary, I didn't know what a boundary was. And then, but it's also, you also realize I was also not afraid to be like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. But I didn't know it was a boundary. It was just kind of like, yeah, well, I'm not interested. And so for some people, you are allowed to say, I'm not interested. For other people, what you wanted didn't matter. You were doing it.
Yeah. And I was one of those. I never knew how to say no. I had a very big fear that people wouldn't like me. Yes, we're definitely from a different generation, and Gen X was like that. Mine went to a little extent of more unhealthy, dysfunctional childhood than mine is just the, what we talk about, okay, just go out, don't come back till dinner. And we didn't have a phone and stuff. And there was no safe space and you used inappropriate words. Okay, yes, we all did that. But it really, I just grew up not having love. So I was always searching for it.
Yeah.
So I was the person who always said, I'm sorry, especially as a teenager, or are you mad at me? Or what's wrong? Or why don't you like me? And I was just so needing and craving it because I didn't have it. And it took a while to realize that self-worth is from inside. It's internal, but you look for it externally. That's the hard part. And yes, it could boost your confidence. You get a good job review, you get a pat on the back. It gives you a boost, but it doesn't last. Self-worth is inner, and that's hard. But your inside world, if you don't have high self-worth or self-love, your inside world reflects what your outside world looks like. So the longer you don't like yourself or have that self-worth, that's exactly what you're going to see, what you're going to look for, and what you're going to attract. That's why the people pleaser literally attracts the toxic person, right? That narcissist. Because the people pleaser wants to make everybody better, and the toxic person wants to be put on the pedestal. So what better? Let me attract that people pleaser who's just going to do whatever I want, even though it's burning that person out and they're getting angry and resentful. They keep doing it. So if you find yourself in that good girl or people pleaser, look at look at the handful of people you spend the most time with. And surprisingly, yes, it could be family. I hate to say this, but family can be very toxic. It could be friends, be coworkers, it could be neighbors. But really looking at it and seeing, are these relationships healthy? Are they lifting me up? Are they empowering me? And not only are they there for me when things are bad, but are they there for me when things are good as my biggest fan and cheerleader? Or are they just jealous and, putting me down and don't want me to succeed? Really diving into who you're spending your time with, because that makes huge difference in your life.
Huge. Also, as you were talking about that, do you think people pleasers fall also into the role of I can fix you?
Absolutely. I mean, we know deep down, I think all of us know this, we don't have the ability to change or control anybody, but yet we feel like if we do everything perfectly and we walk on eggshells, we'll make them happy. They'll be okay. And we'll slowly change them and see that life is good or that they're loved. But again, it's an inside job. We don't have that ability. We can enhance somebody's life. We can be supportive. We could be a good friend. We could be a listener, but we can't make somebody love themselves or make the changes that, it's like I worked in drug and alcohol for a long time. There's nothing I could have done. If someone does not want to quit drugs and alcohol, whether you're a family friend or a counselor or they're a sober coach, they don't want to, there's nothing you can do. There is people have to want to, and they have to find the why in their own. Like, why do I want to change? And like, I know for me, I shifted out of people pleasing when I hit a rock bottom and I've had enough. And that's usually what happens when you just like, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. And then you start slowly making a change, which doesn't happen overnight. And you have relapses. You find yourself, being manipulated or saying yes when you should have said no. But then you go, okay, I did it today. I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm going to make another change. And,
right.
You slowly get there. Or the bonus, as you said, the 40 and over crowd. When you hit 50, our confidence levels start to go up. I still remember when I first started like in the field, I had a client who said to me, she had to be like 51 or 52, and excuse my language, but she said, when I hit like 52, all of a sudden I didn't give a shit what other people thought. And I was like 30 and I'm like, really? Can't imagine that.
Tell me more.
So true. But the peak of happiness starts around 60, but in your 50s, the one good thing about menopause and perimenopause is you have more wisdom, you have more experience, you're willing to take risks, and you're a little bit more confident. And you don't need as many people. You don't need that big group, and you're not looking for acceptance and approval as much anymore. And that's a really nice thing that happens. I'm not saying I love the gray hair or the wrinkles, but, I do like the confidence boost.
I always tell people, my VA, she just turned 40 and she's like, all right, Kim, she's like, you're over 40. She's like, this is what I'm realizing. She's like, I'm starting to give 0 Fs. And I go, welcome to the party. She's like, and it feels really good. I'm like, it certainly does.
It feels freedom. It feels like freedom.
Because it's like, I think about all of the noise that I had in my brain for decades of like, I'm like, no wonder I didn't sleep, because it was like, what about this? And what about this? And what about it? And it was just like a constant list making as soon as I like try to lay my head on the pillow. And so
you get all that clutter.
Yeah. And so it's, freeing to be able to say, you know what? That's either tomorrow's problem or it ain't my problem.
Isn't that, it's like such freedom to be like, you know what? I mean, of course we care about the people we love, important to us. Right. But in general, when you don't really care what everybody else thinks, or you're able to go, hey, you feel that way, but that's not really a my issue.
Yes.
It's a real freeing. And it does happen the older we get. So yes, anybody here in your, perimenopause, menopause age, there is some bonuses. I mean, there are some bonuses. Lose sleep because of menopause, hot flashes and night sweats, but you'll be a little bit more confident about it. It does shift. It's a good shift.
So now, you talked about like you had a burnout. I know I had a burnout to just stop all of my crazy. Is there any way that you can get to this place of like, what the heck am I doing without the burnout?
For some people, if you become self-aware, you absolutely can. And sometimes something happens to you that forces you. Like for me, I think the reason why I got forced into it, I was in grad school for counseling, but my father died. And my father and my mother were both abusive. So when he died, it made me go through counseling. And if you go to grad school for like social work, psychology, counseling, you realize it's an expensive form of counseling. So it's like double whammy at the same time. And I tell my students that when you go, just be prepared. You're going to be like, woo, it's a lot. But it made me go in and realize I have to make a change, because if I don't, I was going down a very bad path and I would have never been able to be a mom. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to be, in all honesty. I mean, I ended up, but I wasn't sure. But I knew if I didn't want to follow in their footsteps and be a mom that I'm proud of, I mean, there's no perfect mom, but just somebody who's the opposite of what I learned, I'm going to have to go through this crap, no matter how much. And I tell this to everybody because it's so true, whether you're in the field or not, or you're going into it, and same for coaching as well, is you start off at a status level. So even if that level's miserable, it's what you're used to. Then you start talking about it, and you could be going to counseling, you could be going to coaching, whatever you do, or just going in the field and self-development and learning on your own. You kind of go down a U. It's like this U shape. And then you hit the bottom where all the crap comes up for what you've been doing, what you've been through. You got to work on grieving, forgiveness, healing, processing. Then you slowly start going up that U, and you get to a new place. And, you know, we could also have what's called post-traumatic growth. So even if you have this people pleasing or good girl syndrome or any of that because of trauma or, you know, abusive childhoods, whatever it is, or even bullying, anything traumatic to you, you still have the ability to grow and expand and have post-traumatic growth where you come out on the other side. It takes a long time. You have to heal and grieve and forgive and do the work, but you can grow from that. You could get to a place where you start looking at the world and going, how can I make it a better place? What could I do differently? How did my purpose shift from this? And I know if I had a really great childhood, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. I'd probably be a business major or something. I would have never went into this field. And that's why a lot of us do go in this field. So you can take what you've been through and really learn and heal and grow and become even a better person from it. And again, I would wish people to go through that. But if you do, you have that ability to get to the other side. And that's, I think, hopeful. And I think a lot of people don't realize that there is hope that you can grow from anything you've been through, physically or emotionally or both.
True.
You know, because I work with a lot of brain injury clients and they physically have gone through a lot, but you still can get to that place of growth, even if they're now physically altered. You know, a lot of them have spinal and they're paralyzed from their chest to waist down now, but they still could be, some of them are even happier and they'll admit, like, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it shifted me into where I was supposed to be. Not that they'd want to go through it again or wish it on anybody, but they could see the growth and the resiliency from it.
Yeah. And I think that's the hardest part, you know, when you come to doing any type of personal growth work is that, you know, we want that Amazon Prime effect that, you know, I told you
instant gratification.
Right. I told you to do this, you know, right now. And then in 2 days, maybe you'll give me a week. If it didn't change your world in some cataclysmic way, it's crap. And what do you got for me next? And so I'm sure you see that. And, you know, for most people, I went to an event yesterday and this woman was saying how she was, had such post...
PTSD?
No, she, after postpartum depression. She had postpartum depression. And she, you know, finally she's like, okay, it's not just the baby blues, it's something more. So she sits down with a counselor and the counselor's like, okay, you know, they were talking and she's like, within the first like 20 minutes of our conversation, she's like, I sat there crossed arm, like, you know, why am I here? Blah, blah, blah. And within 20 minutes, she like, the woman just disarmed me and she said, okay. She's like, what did you expect would happen when you had this baby? And then all of a sudden, she was like, what? What did I expect that would happen? And like, why? You know, that was not a question she was expecting to ask. And she just kind of like, was like, oh, I'm going to have a baby and it's going to sleep 8 hours and, you know, it's going to be on the schedule.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Right. Because it's like, you know, you read like what to expect when you're expecting, right? And then you like hear friends and you might be around friends who have like that baby who sleeps through the night and the baby who isn't colicky. And so you have, you know, you get kind of this delusional world of like, oh, the baby's going to sleep. I'm going to be able to like work when the baby naps and blah, blah, blah. And so she was like, that was just such a like, you know, she shook me by the shoulders by saying, what did you expect? And she's like, it wasn't rude. It was just kind of like, what did you expect when you had the baby? And she was just like, what kind of question is that?
Well, because Hollywood shows you, you have a baby and they're all so cute and everything's great. And you're like,
Yes.
yeah. And you know what? It's just a bunch of crap. I mean, it really is. It's a painful, it's traumatic to give birth, especially natural birth. And then it shifts your whole life in a great way, but you still have to grieve the old life you had.
Right.
When you had all this freedom and you could just do what you wanted. It's just a change, and change is scary, and it brings up fear and anxiety and grieving, and that's normal. But we sometimes put this expectation on ourselves also that we have to be the perfect parent.
Right.
And that's hard too when there is no such thing. But then you're like, oh my God, did I do this wrong? Did I do this right? And, am I raising my child wrong? And I'm like, okay, nobody has raised their child perfectly. We're just doing better than what our parents did. 'Cause we've learned. We got to get that out of here, the perfectionism.
And it's funny, interesting because in your book, you talk a lot about self-trust. And, for many people, they hear the word, but how do you go about building self-trust?
It is, you know what? I'm going to be fully honest. I'm still working on that as we talk.
Yeah.
Self-trust, or I kind of think of it, and I'm not a religious person. I was never raised with any religion, but I find myself very spiritual. And I always try to think of it as like kind of my higher self, like whatever is up there. It doesn't have to be God. It could be the source, the universe, or just your higher intuitive self. But it's kind of learning to trust that there's a reason why you're here and trusting that everything will be okay. And I love this great, it's a positive psychology intervention tool, but I use it a lot with clients. And I find it to be a really great way to start. It's called the Best Life Story. And you just write out one of your really tough situations you've been through. Doesn't matter what it was. It could have been a physical injury or illness. It could be emotional. It could be a loss, whatever you went through. You write it out, and just writing it out for a lot of people gives them a lot of self-awareness, or allows them to see when they're done writing out that story, using every ounce of detail and senses, whatever they remember. I've had a lot of clients say to me, oh my God, like, I can't believe I made it through that. Like, if I made it through that, what am I complaining about now? Like, they see their resiliency, their bravery, their strength. But then there's questions you ask afterwards, like, how did you get through it? Which gives you the tools and the resources to use. Because maybe that happened 10 years ago, but it's still in you. But sometimes you forget that you have patience or persistence, or that you could persevere. And you can ask yourself your question, how have you changed? What did you get out of that experience? How did you grow? And writing out this best life story gives you the ability to see that you've already been resilient, that you've already survived and thrived, and that you can trust that you will get through what life throws at you. But it's learning to trust, and it's also catching the self-doubt and asking yourself, like, when we say negative things to yourselves, which all of us seem to do, my favorite was, why are you so stupid? You're so stupid. That's what I heard growing up. So I had to constantly do that. And it became to the point of just challenging it. Am I really stupid? Like, literally, I would sit down and go, why am I not stupid? And write out, okay, well, I'm in graduate school. Graduate school is usually for people who have somewhat intelligence, my grade, what I did, and started realizing that I'm basing my judgment of myself or my self-worth on something that happened when I was like 3 years old. That's not even based on me. It was based on their past and their childhood. And you can start challenging and seeing where it's really coming from. Because a lot of times you're just holding on to beliefs that are not yours. It's just what you heard because of what your parents or grandparents or what bullies went through. It had nothing to do with you. And then you could start finding the self-worth within. But that exercise seems to be a very powerful one. I really love that one. And I want people to have some tools to do it themselves.
Yeah, no, and I like that, in your book, he's written a book called Worthy, that you do give tools, right? Because a lot of times you read these kind of books and it's very ethereal. And, but in your book, it's like, here's the ethereal, here's the tool. So that, I can actually be like, okay, work through my challenges so that I can, like you said, have the awareness, like, yeah, I'm not going to be cured, but I now I'm aware, like, oh crap, I'm doing it again. Like, oh crap, like you wrote sorry. Nope. Rewind. No sorry. Hey, thanks for moving the appointment.
Right. You get to challenge yourself. And I find it really important because I love watching speakers and listening to other speakers because I speak. I love reading other people's personal development, personal growth books. But a lot of times they're so motivating for like 3 days. But if you don't give me what I'm supposed to do, when the high goes, then what? So I made my book that you can write in it so you can be self-aware. Also, writing's a great tool for mindfulness, to release, to see your patterns and habits. And I give tools because I want people to make changes as they go. And if that's not enough, then absolutely counseling or coaching is a great partnership, whichever way you decide to go. But yeah, I want people to have a start to what they're working on because it worked for me. So I want it to work for others.
And I like that because you're right. Because it's like I read the book and I'm like, sure. And then like you said, 3 days later, I'm on to another book and be like, oh, maybe this is the answer. And I haven't really put the work into all of the things. And the fact that you give me a you give me a worksheet. Oh, I'm all in, right? Where if you said, go get a piece of paper, I'm on the couch. The paper's over there. Like, I'm not going to get up. I'm not going to get up and do it. But if you're like, it's in the book, it's like, oh, all right. Next time I pick up the book, I'll make sure I have a pen with me so that I can do the exercises.
I do. And I want people to write all over the book. I am old school, showing my age again, but I like that better than an ebook. Not that there's anything wrong with an ebook, but for me, I want to turn the pages. I want to highlight. I want to write in it. I want to I want to fold the page to know to go back to that. Even when I finish the book, when I'm having a bad day, that helped me. There's a tool in there. Yeah. So that's how I work. And I am definitely older. So I'm putting it out there that I'm older and that's what works. So I know. But if you want to use an ebook, you can do it that way too and write in it or whatever you want. But yeah, I like old school. I want to write. I want a pen and paper.
Oh my God. My husband is paperless and I don't really understand it. And I was in his office and that's where I fold laundry. Don't ask. So I'm in his office, I'm folding laundry and someone called me and they're like, oh, Kim, you want to write this down? I'm like, the man doesn't have one piece of paper, not even a Post-it note.
Oh my God, I have Post-its everywhere.
Not even a pen. And I was like, oh my God. So I had to hang on. I had to leave the room, come up to my office where I got shit tons of paper.
Yeah, I see the paper. You're like me. You got it everywhere. Yeah.
Right.
You too.
And I'm like, you don't even have a Post-it note in your office. Like, nothing.
I couldn't function. That would just throw me off.
He's like, oh, I just put everything in my phone or in whatever tool I'm using. And I was like, no, that's not how I'm ever going to function. I need to write something quick like that. He's like, well, you're on the phone. Why didn't you just write it in your phone? I was like,
didn't even think about it.
That's not even the answer. That's not the answer.
Yeah, no, I have a daily planner next to me that I literally write in. Yep. And my friends all make fun of me and I'm like, I have a Google Calendar, but I don't care. I want it written down. I need to see it. It's just the way it works.
I'm great with a calendar because I can also I need about 500 reminders to make this happen. But I also need to sit in the beginning, at the end of every night, and be like, what's the plan? What's the plan for tomorrow? And I will write down all my appointments, but it's like, what's the plan? I need to write it on paper.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I have Post-its. I have a daily planner. I'm just, and that's going to stay. I'm going to die like that. So
yeah,
it's just the way it is. I don't care how AI takes over. I don't care if we turn into the next Terminator 2 movie and there's nothing. I'm going to find paper.
I'll be a Terminator with paper.
I'll be with you. We'll be friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, where's the Post-it? Passing it to each other.
Well, but we're the only two people using Post-its.
I'll be proud.
Yeah. So I'd like to end my podcast with a couple of what I call my lightning rounds.
Oh, no. I'm worried.
No, it's not like Jeopardy where it's like, okay, for $10,000.
Well, then I definitely fail. That pressure.
I don't watch Jeopardy, but from time to time it'll pop on and I'll hear a question. I'm like, damn, that's too much. I'm like, I like useless knowledge, but that's too much useless knowledge.
Yeah, I could never. I would be kicked off the show in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I wouldn't even. I probably failed writing my name. Yeah. What's one boundary you wish more women would set?
I really wish they would have more emotional boundaries where they would say no, they would ask for help, they would delegate professionally and personally, and they would really do the basic needs of self-care. That is my goal for every person. So if only, but I know it's probably one of the hardest ones out of all the different boundaries, but it would be the most, I think, important and make the biggest impact.
How can women start untangling ourselves from the story that we've been told? the good mom, the good wife, the good friend. I don't complain. How do we kind of start to unwind ourselves from that?
It's really about thinking instead of a perfectionism, because that's what that is, into excellence. How can I be excellent instead of perfect? Because there is no perfection. So you're setting yourself up for failure by trying to reach something that doesn't exist. But we can all be the best version of ourselves. So how can I do things that are really great or excellent for me, but not try for perfection and always fall short because it doesn't exist?
Right.
And if we just go for being better than where we were, we'll succeed.
Yeah.
So it's really, how can I do better? Even if it's 1%, just 1%.
Yeah. What's the most overused phrase by people pleasers?
I'm sorry. Are you mad at me? I'm sorry. Are you mad at me?
Yeah.
Those are some of the biggest ones I hear. Are you mad at me? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Are you mad?
What's one thing you used to say yes to that is a hard no? That's now a hard no.
Oh, geez, almost everything. I've embraced no. I really have.
Yes.
It's actually one of my favorite words now, but I think it's almost everything at this point. I got to be honest.
Perfect.
Anything that just didn't work for me, I tried to, and I say yes to myself. Working out, making myself a priority with things like every day I work out. Because if not, I'd be really mean and cranky. I make sure I drink all my water. Like I take care of myself. I made that change.
This is probably maybe like 10 years ago. Lisa Nichols, she's a motivational speaker.
I love her.
And
yeah, she's really good.
Yeah. And she stood on the stage, like right in the middle, put her hands on her hips. And she said, the one thing that has kept me on the road for as long as I've been on the road is, she said, no is a complete sentence. And she said, when she first started, you have to say yes to everything. And then she's like, then she goes, my son got to a certain age and she's like, I wanted to be a mom. And she's like, I had to stop the guilt when so-and-so asked me to speak or so-and-so asked me to do something. And she was just like, no excuses. Just, you want to do this? And it was like black and white for me. Yes, no.
It is. It's a complete sentence. Never explain yourself. And not only that, it's a complete act of self-care.
Yeah.
So,
because you always feel like, just like you said, sorry, but blah, 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 blah. But it's like, do you want to bake cookies for the bake sale? Hell no. Can I buy them? If I can't buy them, then it's definitely a hard no.
Yep. And you know what? We don't even have to ask. It's like, nope, I can't, but I can buy. That's it. It's like, this is the option you're giving, or it's just, no, thanks, can't do it. And that's it. And you do learn to feel better about it. It takes time. So I don't want anybody to go no and then feel like crap and go, she was crazy. No, it's going to take months. Again, you're stepping outside your comfort zone. So it's going to feel natural and normal to feel uncomfortable. Know that, feel it, identify it, move through it, and also realize why you're doing it. You're looking for instant gratification by saying yes. Makes you feel better instantly.
Yes.
Nobody's mad at you. No one's hurt. But then you feel guilt about it and you feel worse about it later, 24 hours, 48 hours later. So remember, you're giving yourself instant gratification, but in the long term, you're making yourself feel worse.
Yeah. The best thing I heard was so that, if you were to say today, today was a bunch of things on my to-do list. And if you asked me to do something today, I probably would have said no. And then the woman said, well, now imagine an empty calendar. And if that same person asked you to do the same thing on that empty calendar day, if it wouldn't be a hell yes, it's a hell no. And I was
Perfect.
I was
that.
Wow, because you're right. Because it's like if you ask me, how Kim, could you do something today? And I'd be like, busy day today. I'm like, I can't even think about squeezing it in. But what if you ask me a month from now and my day is open? Would I still say yes? And I was like, that is such a great spin on any activity, because that's how we usually say yes or no. And then when the day comes up, you're like, God damn it, why did I say yes?
Right. So it's a great way of thinking of it. Like, you're right. Look at it. And if you had nothing going on, if you'd still want to do it, then do it. If not, no. And very simply, no thanks. No thanks for asking. The end.
Right. Flattered, but no.
Because if you explain yourself, you either explain yourself into saying yes out of guilt, or if it's a toxic person, they'll manipulate you into saying yes. So it's just a no, hard no, as you said.
And it's so funny because I think my first thought was the toxic person who, as soon as you kind of put out the objection, if they are very skilled at objection busting, they will flip that objection on you. Oh, so you can't do it this Friday. What about Thursday? And then it just becomes this like back and forth that you finally have to be like, they either feel like they bend you over and you say yes, or you're just in this spiral of like the inevitable no.
Yeah. So it's just no in the end. And just move on with your day. Or you can give an option if it's something you really wanted to do, but you just can't. Like you said, I can't bake the cookies, but I can pick some up on Entenmann's on the way back. I don't know if everybody has Entenmann's. I know that's a New York thing, but those are really good.
They are really good. Those chocolate chip cookies, damn.
And their cakes and donuts.
Oh my God,
they're just good. But whatever you're getting.
All right. So I asked all of my guests one final question. What's one thing that makes you feel magical?
No, now I've been thinking about that the whole time. I got to be honest. Give me that warning. Honestly, I'm not even sure what would make me feel really magical, but something that consistently makes me feel magical is working out. I know that's going to sound crazy to some people, but I actually feel empowered. I feel like a new person. I feel like I could take on the world. It's really my magic. It's my mental illness magic. Like without it, I'd be like, I don't know. I just would, it's my antidepressant. And we know that scientifically, exercise and food play a huge role in your depression. So whatever makes you feel good, but that does it for me. And my dog. I do have my 13-year-old golden retriever behind me who is always magical, even though he's snoring right now, but he is magical.
Yeah. Like Goldens are just like, they're like, if you want to have like the 0F life, follow a Golden, because they're like, oh, I'm just over here laying down.
Oh my God. And they're just so cute and sweet. Like my dog could be having a bone in his mouth. I could put my hand in there and pull it out and he'll just go.
So like, you want to play with it now? All right. Tell me when you're done.
Yeah. Like they would never hurt a fly. When you have kids, they're the perfect dog. So
yeah, we have a friend who has a Golden and like, Mac like lays wherever he wants to lay and it's usually in the way. And, and then when you're like, kind of like, hey, Mac, can you move? Like lifts his head like, seriously, dude? Like, I'm here right now. I'm laying down.
Yeah. He's like, no, you can walk over me. Right. But like, unless you open up a wrapper for food, I ain't moving.
Right. Yeah. Or you open up the door and I get a chance to swim, then I'm all in.
Oh, but my dog swims. Yes.
I'm laying down.
Yeah, they don't care. They're great. They're the cutest, sweetest dogs, except they lay on you. Like my dog's 90 pounds and he thinks he's a lap dog. But outside of that, he's pretty magical. I do think dogs are perfect. So I give that dogs.
Yeah, they are. Well, where can people, one, get your book, and two, where can they find you on the socials?
So you can find me on my website, which is just my name, DianeLang.org. And you can find my book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, or through my website. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, this has been such a great I could talk to you all afternoon. You guys, you know how it is. I always put all the links in the show notes. So absolutely go on there. And, if there was one thing you took away from this conversation, screenshot it and make sure you tag us on the socials. And, if you're someone who's like, I think I'm a people pleaser, because we probably are, follow Diane. She gives great advice. And in the book, like I said, I like it because it's a workbook, right? It gives you the exterior things. It gives you the why, but it also gives you, how do I work it out in my own personal life?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Diane. Thanks so much for being on the show. I truly, truly appreciate it. All right, Magic Makers, I will talk to you guys next week with something else fabulous. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be fabulous.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.